Welcome back. This is Become a Bat. I'm your host, Tom.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be discussing issues Detective Comics number 33, 34, and 35. Issue number 33 is very significant. We finally get Batman's origin story.
About time.
Yes. Everybody knows Batman's origin story. Him and his parents, his very rich, wealthy parents, get out of the theater and they get shot. And then he grows up training himself to do something about that. He eventually decides, after doing all that strength training, becoming a scientist, and learning detective skills, he finally decides to become a bat type man.
Yeah, it looks like he was planning on fighting crime from the moment his parents died, but it took 15 years for him to come up with the Batman moniker.
Yeah, that was the last piece.
Yeah.
I think the Batman origin is something that we could dedicate an entire episode alone to that.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not going to spend too much time on it right now, but I think it's just, it's the seminal it's a seminal superhero origin outside of Superman, basically. It doesn't get more iconic than that.
Yeah, both of them deal with death of your parents, but one's a little more visceral because they die right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you're a baby and you shot into outer space.
Yeah, Superman didn't realize what even happened usually until he's years later.
He grew up with loving parents.
Yep. All right, so the issue number 33, The Batman Wars Against the Dirigible of Doom. It is the November 1939 issue with art by Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff, written by Bill Finger and Gardner Fox. So here's the synopsis of this issue. So Bruce Wayne, he's walking around Manhattan, and this dirigible appears in the sky, like a big old blimp, and it creates chaos, basically. It shoots some buildings with these red death rays, or basically like laser beams. And a voice comes out of the dirigible, and it says that they're going to rule the world. They call themselves the Scarlet Horde. They're basically just plotting to take over the world. Thousands of people die, and Bruce spends some time like helping out the survivors. It goes away.
I'm honestly surprised there's not another mention of War of the Worlds, Orson Welles right there.
Yeah, I think because outright it's like speaks to them, so in plain English, so it's very clear that, hey, this is, people knew what a dirigible was.
Yeah, it's just funny because they use the same imagery
in
these issues, but in this one they're like,
yeah, it's very framed just like that one shot where Bruce gets out with a gyrocopter. So anyways, later at his home, Bruce Wayne decides he needs to stop the Scarlet Horde. So he opens up a secret panel in a room and he reveals a secret lab. So he thinks that the dirigible, that's going to be a difficult word to say, this entire thing. I guess I just say blimp.
Dirigible.
But yeah, I'm going to say dirigible.
Yeah.
The dirigible's red laser beams, they could be a clue as to where this all came from. So he finds a newspaper clipping about somebody named Professor Carl Kruger. That's another tongue twister.
Yeah.
And he was released from an insane asylum recently, and he was working on a death ray.
I like how they're like, you're working on a death ray? You must be crazy.
Yeah, they just step. What made him crazy is that he has a Napoleon complex.
I don't think they know what Napoleon complex means because he literally dresses like Napoleon and acts like Napoleon. That's not what a Napoleon complex is.
It isn't, but I love it.
Me too.
And it's very much the first like step towards like the Gothamification of Batman's rogue gallery.
He could have almost been the Penguin at that point.
Yeah, he's very like in the vein of Dick Tracy, where Batman gets his like crazy rose gallery from.
Yeah. That'd be funny if Napoleon just showed up in modern Batman comics.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, he thinks it's this, Carl Kruger guy, and he knows where he lives. So Batman decides, Bruce Wayne basically puts on the Batman outfit, gets his rope, and he drives over to Kruger's mansion. And inside we see that the Scarlet Horde, they're gathered together. It's made up of 4 great scientists, Kruger included, and then 3 of his generals, and they're wearing like these red-looking military outfits, and they are indeed plotting to take over the world.
Of course.
They have apparently 2,000 soldiers in their employ, like just ready to do all this. Kruger, his old gang, His whole plan is just to become a world dictator. After the three generals leave, Batman comes in through the window and he throws a batarang at Kruger, who is just sitting in a chair, and the batarang is blocked by this like thick wall of glass.
I have a major problem with that because we're supposed to believe he just sits behind this wall of glass all the time. Like, how does anybody hear what he's saying?
There might be speakers, or maybe I don't know. They didn't think it through.
Yeah, not really.
But regardless, it's supposed to be dramatic.
Glass is going to save you from bullets.
Yeah. And also, Batman would have heard a speaker probably. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But
Weird.
Kruger's paranoid.
Yeah.
So that's the important thing.
It's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah. So after failing to hit Kruger, like this arm comes out from behind a painting of Napoleon, the actual Napoleon, and the arm's holding a gun, and it whacks Batman on the head. So Batman like shortly wakes up afterwards, and he's tied up. Kruger says that he's going to leave. There's a bomb, and it's going to set to explode in a few minutes. So Kruger leaves, and then Batman pulls a knife out from his boot, and he cuts himself free. He jumps out the window just in time for the house to blow up.
Just in the nick of time.
Yep, that's going to be a recurring
Yeah.
theme. I do like that Batman didn't do the cool hero, like run away, walk away from the burnt, like the explosion.
Yeah. It almost looks like he got blown further away from
Yeah.
Like he escaped and then the explosion went off and the explosion's force blew him.
It pushed him, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely not a cool thing.
Yep.
But you know what? I like that the dude opens the painting and hits him with the butt of a gun. Why didn't you just open the painting and then shoot him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a much more effective way of taking him out.
Yeah. Like I'm guessing though, maybe he just had orders. Napoleon probably found out, oh yeah, Batman's here.
Yeah.
I'm behind the wall of glass. So maybe he was talking with his lieutenants, his general guys. And then after they left, in that brief moment, he like maybe pressed a button and it lowered the glass, but like it's invisible glass.
Maybe.
So I didn't hear it or realize it was happening.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible. But anyways, Batman to Kruger, he's presumed dead. He thinks Batman's dead. He's taken care of. So next night, one of Kruger's lieutenants, he's sleeping in his apartment, and then Batman busts in and scares the shit out of him. Batman says he'll be back, and he just leaves. So the lieutenant's like, crap, Batman's alive. He's not dead. I gotta tell Kruger. So he gets in his car, and he drives over to a hangar, and Batman, this is exactly what Batman wanted because he doesn't know where Kruger even is. Batman follows him to the secret hangar. He hovers up above, and then he like pulls out this glass vial, and it creates like a black cloud to basically disguise the bat plane.
Yeah, which looks nothing like all the other clouds. Even the guards are just like, what's with that black cloud? Looks like rain.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
But whatever, it fools him. So anyways, Batman gets, after he disguises it, he gets down and he sneaks into the hangar. Inside the hangar, there's the Scarlet Horde. There's one of the Scarlet Horde, and they're standing by these death ray machines. Batman throws in these gas pellets, and then he shoots the machines with a gun, and it blows up the death ray and kills these guys. So I think...
Yeah, how could it not kill those guys? That was a big explosion.
Yeah, I think basically the gas pellets just put gas in the air and just made it explosive.
Or the death ray machine is just highly explosive and the bullet just made it...
Maybe, but...
Because then it says that the explosion of one death ray machine made the other machine.
Yeah, I mean, it was a chain reaction regardless. So after this, Batman, he's targeting the dirigible, the dirigible itself. He picks up an axe, and before he's able to get a swing in, Kruger just shows up and he shoots him with a gun. Was it in the chest, basically, or like in the shoulder?
Yeah, like right near his heart.
So Batman, he's on the ground bleeding out. Kruger's like, yeah, I got an idea. So he walks, he tells a soldier's like walking by, hold on a minute, I'm going to get something. And then he comes back and he's got a death ray machine and he shoots Batman with it. And Batman is reduced to ashes. Or so he thinks.
Yeah.
So the soldier was Bruce. When you see him like climbing back into the plane, he's like wearing the outfit, takes it off. So Batman returns home and he explains how that like he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and because of it, he barely suffered a flesh wound. And in that brief moment where Kruger walked away, he swapped outfits with the soldier, which means that he had to have shot that soldier. So he's convincingly bleeding out, swapped outfits, and then basically left him. Even if the soldier survived the gunshots, he let Kruger kill him.
Did he have to shoot the soldier though? Because it looked like Batman himself was bleeding, even though he said it was just a flesh wound. He
Yeah,
probably just knocked that dude out and threw his body on top of the blood.
I like to imagine he probably shot him for good measure, just so there's more blood.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kind of have an issue with that scene too, because in a previous issue, Bruce Wayne himself says that it takes a half an hour to change into the Batman outfit, but we're supposed to
oh,
believe that
yeah.
he takes off his, well, sorry, beats the dude up, takes his outfit off, takes the guy's outfit off, dresses
Mhm.
up like the guy, and then dresses the guy up like him.
Yeah, that
What?
must either it took half an hour for him to find that death ray machine,
Yeah.
or an hour because he had to fight the dude and then
Yeah.
shoot him, and then he had to be far enough away not to hear the gunshot. If he that you probably didn't shoot him because he would have heard the second gunshot.
And it takes time, by the way, because a couple like pages earlier, it shows Bruce Wayne reaching for his Batman suit in the trunk. Then there's this little tiny blank panel where it says the Batman prepares to visit Dr. Kruger. And then there's a panel of him fully dressed saying, and now my silk rope, and I'm ready. So
Yeah.
that little panel right there is how long it takes him to change into the suit.
Yeah, we got to know Batman basically has got to perfect out the outfit situation soon. If he's just
Yeah.
able at one point in the show just swing down the pole and be dressed up, he's
Yeah.
got to have some kind of new.
I want to
New
know when they're going to
techniques.
implement something like that in the comics here.
So after he explains about the flesh wound and swapping outfits, Bruce mixes up some chemicals in his lab and then he like sprays them all over the bat plane. So the next morning, the dirigible returns to Manhattan, but Batman is prepared. He flies by and he gets shot by the dirigible's death ray, but it's totally unaffected. So that whatever that chemical was, it like,
Anti-death rays.
yeah, life ray.
Yeah.
So Kruger, he gets in a small plane, he ejects out the dirigible. Batman kamikazes into the dirigible, blowing it up. He escapes by parachute. Batman gets onto Kruger's plane with a rope, and then Kruger tries to shoot Batman, but Batman throws the choking gas at Kruger. This causes him to fall unconscious and crash the plane into the bay. Batman jumps out just in time. Hours later, Bruce Wayne sits at home in a comfy robe and has a celebratory smoke while he listens to the news about how they fished Kruger's dead body out of the water. The end.
Man, Batman does not give a fuck in this issue. Like,
He really doesn't.
he's like, you want to kill me? I'll just kill this guy and put my costume on him. I don't care about my costume. I don't need it.
Yeah,
Oh, you want to kill me? Here, I'll just crash my plane into you. I don't need a plane.
yeah. I could just get another one.
And then he just sits there listening to the radio when they're talking about how this guy died. And he's just, that's right. I killed this man.
Not a jury in the world will convict me.
No. I love that image where he's like on the wing of the plane and Napoleon's just got a gun pulled on him and he's, this time I'll make sure you die.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah. This issue has so much to it. I loved it.
Yeah, it's really good.
The opening is super. Like when I saw the panel of Batman, I mean not Batman, Bruce Wayne himself lifting up that steel girder off of the guy after the dirigible attack, it just lit up a light in my brain because it's exactly like the moment in the opening of Batman versus Superman, where Bruce is running through Metropolis and then he lifts up the girder to save his employee Wally, just basically save him.
Be his employee. Who knows?
But no, it was.
No, the comic.
Oh, in the comic, yeah, maybe. We really don't know anything about Batman at this point, other than he
Yeah.
lives in Manhattan and his parents got killed.
I wonder though, like I wonder in the movie, what does he say when he's lifting that beam off the guy? He says something like he may not say
well,
like "easy, old man," but he says
No,
something.
and I watched the clip to prepare, and I don't have the exact quote, but basically, he asks him what his name is. He says Wally, because Wally recognizes him as Mr. Wayne, so
Mhm.
he knows that he works for him. Because he's I think he's at near the Wayne building.
The Wayne Tower.
Yeah, it's he's like he walks past like all those children. He like hugs that girl.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit before he hugs the girl, but he walks past a bit of children, and then he's like, "All right, you're gonna be all right, Wally." And he lifts up. He's like, "I can't feel my legs, Mr. Wayne," and he lifts up the girder, and then the two guys pull him away.
Yeah.
And then that's that until we see more of Wally later. This issue it reminded me of Metal with or James Bond, basically Batman just sneaking into the enemy base. He's got the gun, he's like shooting things up, swapping out outfits, being very sneaky.
Yeah, he's almost like a secret agent in this one because
Yeah.
he infiltrates, blows everything up, and then escapes.
Yeah.
And like it's very action oriented that he escapes on his plane, he crashes his plane, he's jumping on cars. Yeah, he's more like a superhero in this comic book.
Yeah. Two members of the Scarlet Horde are still alive. Like he kills the one with the death ray. By the death rays with the bullet and the explosion, and then Kruger. So I don't know, maybe we'll see the other two, or maybe they just get away with it.
If they don't get away, that would be a cool thing to try to bring back later.
Yeah.
I love when they try to bring back the golden age stories in modern age.
Mhm.
Like,
Grant Morrison was really good at doing that.
yeah, he was.
Yeah, I know when later on during Grant Morrison's run, he does reference the Mad Monk in one issue. Or no, Dr. Death.
Dr. Death, yeah.
Yeah.
So your favorite panel was the panel.
What thoughts do you have on it?
Oh, I've got some thoughts.
Yeah, let's go for it. We'll do panel after thoughts.
Okay, so a couple notes that I wrote. One, the artwork in this issue is so much better.
Yeah.
They're still doing that thing where they trace or redraw really good panels from previous issues, but nowhere near as much. The anatomy of Batman is much more realistic. The way he poses doesn't look weird. His head's not too large like it is in some of the other panels in the other issues. This is also one where Batman's fingertips are sharp. I don't know if you noticed when you're reading it because
I
you're a
didn't.
bit more like scans of the original comics, but
Yeah.
in this issue, his fingertips are sharp. And then not in the next one, but then they're sharp again in the next one. So he does have a recurring thing with sharp fingertips in some of these issues, which is why they gave him the sharp fingertips in the Batman cartoon.
Yeah.
Also, I like that it took 6 months for them to give him an origin story.
Yeah.
You get 6 months of unadulterated Batman just beat on people, and then you finally get the origin story. I like that at 10 years old, I'm assuming he's 10 years old.
It usually ranges between like 8 or not, or 8 or 10, but yeah.
His parents are gunned down in front of him, and right then and there, he swears to avenge his parents' death by spending the rest of his life working on crime. Dude, you're 10 years old. You have no idea how long you're going to live. The rest of your life is a long time.
Yeah.
And then it only takes 3 panels. We were talking about this earlier. It only takes 3 panels on one page to explain how awesome he is, because one panel shows how smart he is because he's become like this chemist, like he understands all these ridiculous scientific procedures. And then the next panel shows how strong he is because he's holding the barbell over his head. And then the next panel, he's basically just saying, "I'm really rich because my dad left me money."
He's got basically everything he needs.
He's got access to everything he needs. And then also there's that line, "A creature from the night," or "A creature of the night." Cut out the "from the night." "Creature of the night" comes directly from the book / movie Dracula. So that's like a nice little like nod to one of the inspirations for Batman whenever they mention "Creature of the Night."
All right. Want to go into the panels?
Yeah.
All right. So my favorite panel, it's the one where Batman's turning around to shoot the death rays and blow them up. He enters the room. Here goes. I hope I don't get blown up.
I love that panel.
Yeah.
I almost picked that panel, but I looked through here first to see which one you had picked. And I was like, oh, okay, good.
You could pick, if we end up on the same panel, that's good too. But
it's such a good panel.
Yeah.
It shows, because the rest of this book, he's so cocky. He's just like, I know I'm not going to get blown up. I know I'm not going to die. But right here, he's just, I'm going to shoot these things and hope that it works.
The day after he survived an explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I've already survived one, so I should be good here. Yeah, he's leaving a lot to fate.
I chose this one like pretty early on in the issue where Batman comes into the room behind Napoleon. What's Napoleon's name again?
Kruger.
Yeah.
I have to like mentally stop myself from saying Fred Krueger.
I know. I just keep calling him Napoleon because he wants to be called Napoleon.
I had this feeling I would keep calling him Napoleon too because it just looks like Napoleon.
Yeah, he does. He would approve him.
You know who actually reminds me of? Maxine Zeus.
Yeah.
Because he's got that same, it's not a Napoleon complex, but he's got that thing where he thinks he's a crazy person who thinks he's like some other figure.
Yeah, he thinks he's like some historical figure incarnated or something.
Like there is a thing, I only ever see it in cartoons where people think they're Napoleon or Abraham Lincoln. So I don't know how prevalent that is in real life.
There's probably a specific name for that, thinking you're historical.
Yeah, bad on us for not researching it.
Anyways, my panel, sorry. So this panel is also doing like what I've mentioned a bunch of times, where they recreate a panel from a previous issue, but then they mesh it with this issue because you've got Batman coming in through the open door. He's like holding the door open. He's got his cape pulled up over his mouth. And then they just added into the corner down here the picture of Kruger in his chair with his head whipping around.
No.
But I love how he's like interjecting himself into conversations. Like Kruger's just talking with his men, and then Batman steps in and is, perhaps I can stop you. And then you get Kruger's head snap. The Batman.
Yeah, that might be the Bill Finger influence. Because we know 2-3 issues ago, he would have just come by, thrown a rope over his neck and just got it over with.
Batman goes from just like jumping through windows and throwing fists and choking people out and tossing them out windows to having these really dramatic entrances where he just sort of says something, throws his cape over his face, and then someone's, oh my God, Batman. And then the punches start flying.
Yeah.
But I really like the dramatic entrances there.
All right. Any final thoughts on this issue?
No, it's weird because this issue was a step in the right direction, but we're about to move on to one that takes it in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll take a quick break here. And we are back after some technical issues. It's actually a few days after we recorded another part of the episode and then lost it due to a technical issue.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
Basically recorded all of the review for Detective Comics number 34 and then lost the whole entire thing.
But it's not too big of an issue because we came to some conclusions, or I had things wrong earlier. Mike will be able to correct me and I'll sound less stupid this time.
I'm still going to save it for a surprise, though. I want to wait till the end after talking about it. I don't want to throw it in there in the middle.
All right, I'm going to act shocked then.
Okay. You don't have to be shocked. I just think it's a cool reveal after the fact.
Yeah, I'll say what I thought happened and then you'll reveal what actually happened.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll give you the synopsis for this one.
All right, Detective Comics number 34, Peril in Paris. This one was written December 1939, art by Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff, and written by Gardner Fox. This is another one of those ones that doesn't have Batman on the cover, by the way.
Yeah.
I guess technically it does because his face is on there, but it's just a picture of a guy.
They're still pretending that he's just part of the comic. He isn't the comic.
Oh yeah, he's the comic. We all know. Anyways, Detective Comics number 34. So this story probably takes place before the previous one. The opening scroll recounts the Mad Monk story and Batman sending Julie to America. So Bruce Wayne is leaving a hotel and he sees a guy in a trench coat who he thinks is his good old friend Jed. He approaches Jed and the guy turns around to reveal that he has no face. Instead of getting freaked out though, Bruce is actually pretty chill about the whole thing. And the guy walks off and Bruce shrugs it off.
We're never going to see Jed.
Does Jed see anything? He has no eyes.
It wasn't Jed.
That's true.
Clearly.
That's true. It wasn't actually Jed. Meanwhile, in a midtown hotel, a woman gets a threatening letter from Duc de Terror, however you pronounce that.
Very French name.
I know. Master of the Apaches, a very non-French sounding name, and thinks that she's doomed to die. So she gets out and calls a taxi. She happens to get into the same one as Bruce. Right before they get acquainted, a knife gets thrown at them. She tells Bruce that the Apaches are trying to kill her, so they get out and they hide in an alleyway. She tells Bruce the story, but she sees the no-face guy and passes out. They take her back to the hotel, and Bruce asks the guy with no face who he is. His name is Charles Mayer. Carol is his sister. He says that they met some guy named Duc de Dorter at a ball mask. I'm assuming that's
I think it's supposed to be, he says ball mask, but I think it's supposed to be like a masquerade ball.
Yeah, I figured. Charles says he was captured, dragged to the Paris sewers to an unearthly den where they burned off his face with a terrible ray. So brutal. They agree that Duc Dorter,
let's just call him the Duke.
the Duke, has to be stopped. Bruce tells them he can't help them as myself. Such a cheesy line.
Yeah.
And then excuses himself, only to don the Batman costume and come right back. It's unclear if he just revealed his secret identity as Batman or not. I don't think he did.
Yeah, the end takes away that ambiguity.
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious when he does it in this panel, but they fix that in the end. So Carol says she's heard of Batman. Charles's tone is as expressionless as his face. So Batman jumps into the sewer from a rooftop somehow. He runs around a bit and catches the attention of some goons. They just think the Batman's a drunk from the masquerade ball, so they tried to rob him. I think he forgot his choking gas in this issue because he was just straight up choking people out with his bare hands.
Yeah, you just gotta do what works.
There's more than one way to choke a bitch. The Duke appears. He's wearing a tuxedo with a red cape and holds a conductor's baton. Batman jumps at him, but gets shot from a blinding light shot from
Like his baton kind of looked like a cane.
Could be either one.
Yeah, it changes size between panels.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we should bring up the whole Apaches thing right now.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So before I started reading this issue, I had never heard of the Apaches in France. When I first saw that Carol was scared of the Apaches. I thought, oh no, this is gonna have some really bad racism.
Like the last couple issues.
Yeah, what are Apaches doing in France? And then I looked it up, and there were two different kinds of Apaches in France. In the 1930s, around this time, there was a like kind of a street gang subculture.
Mm-hmm.
They actually took inspiration from the Native American Apaches.
Like the Warriors
Yeah, more.
dress like
Yeah,
Americans.
basically what Wikipedia said. They wore like that and did the whole savages thing, quote unquote savages. But then in like the turn of the century, like 1900, 1930 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
03, there was like a musical troupe called Les Apaches. Shared the same name, but they had nothing to do with like that subculture and the street gang. So when I read this and I saw the Duke,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked like a conductor, so I'm thinking, what version of Apaches are these? Because none of the goons dress up like Native Americans. They look like guys you would expect Parisian goons to look like in 1930s.
Maybe the Duke is an ex-member of the original Apache gang.
Maybe.
And restarting the Apaches.
Yeah, he does look like he'd be old enough to have been around back then.
Yeah.
So maybe, I was thinking maybe it was Gardner Fox who did this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he either knew about the two separate ones or his source that he learned about these from, because he was a world, like, he read pretty much every scrap of like
Batman.
information about the world he could.
He was a writer too, not just
Yeah.
comic books.
Maybe his source mixed the two up.
Yes, the Apaches. They're a gang of musicians in France.
Yeah,
That works.
I like that thought. And that sounds like a Batman-y thing.
It really
You
does.
get the
Yeah.
music meister and
Right.
all that. So maybe Finger just rolled with it. So that's my thoughts on the Apaches.
I like it. All right. Back to the synopsis. All right. So Duke has this big spinning wheel and he ties Batman to it. And I don't just mean like a spinning wheel, like it's a torture device. It's a big spinning wheel.
It's gigantic.
Yeah. He's got a whole room full of torture devices. He's trying to
Think of
torture
those
Batman.
giant wheels from Donkey Kong Country.
That's good.
Yeah.
So he ties Batman up to it. He wants to make it spin fast enough to where either Batman will lose his mind or he'll get flung into a concrete wall. So he pulls the lever and it starts to spin. Batman breaks free and jumps through a ceiling door. Batman finds himself in a flower garden, a super trippy one where all the flowers have women's faces on them. Batman asks himself if he's going mad. Duke has his goons kidnap Charles and his sister. He has Charles tied up to the wheel too, so it seems that the sister is somehow projecting herself through the flowers, and she tells Batman how to get out of there. Batman gets out of there and stops the wheel with his rope. Duke escapes with the sister, and Batman chases them with his plane. Batman finds the car and jumps down. Duke tries to attack him with the cane again, but Batman grabs it. Duke tries to stab Batman with a knife, but the sister gets a kick in at Duke. Batman gets into the car, strangles Duke with his bare hands, and then the car cranes off a cliff, with Batman jumping out with the sister at the last minute. They thank Batman. Turns out they didn't realize he was Bruce Wayne after all. The end.
Yes.
It's always fun reading the synopsises when you wrote them and trying to like make it sound like I said it. But
Yeah.
then sometimes it throws me off because you write something funny in there and I'm just not expecting it to be funny.
And then so my what I thought when I first read this was Carol, we kept referring to as the sister, because when Charles introduced himself, I didn't know that was, because they spelled Carol with a Karel.
Yeah.
So I thought like, his name was, what was the name? Charles.
Maybe he did that because his name's Bob Kane. His Carol.
Yeah.
Spell it with
Well,
a K.
because okay, his name is Charles Mayer. His name is Charles Mayer.
Yeah.
But when I read, I didn't see like the period. I thought, or a comma or whatever. I just thought he says my name is Charles Mayer Carell. That was his full name.
That
So
sounds like a cool name.
when I read the synopsis, I just thought, oh, it's the sister. They never named her. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I'm like, oh no, her name is Carol. And I thought that he was just projecting her face on the flowers, and I didn't put two and two together, which
Yeah. Well, it does seem like that, honestly, like when you're looking at, because it's only one panel. You only have one
Yeah.
panel to look at with all these women's faces on the flowers. And it's unclear whether they're all the same face or different faces,
Yeah.
or if he's really drugged up and losing his mind, or what the hell's going on.
yeah, as a modern Batman reader,
Yeah.
you expect some kind of that the weird Batman stuff is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I thought this was just like a precursor to it.
Yeah, only they don't explain it, except after looking it up on the Batman wiki, it explains it pretty well. And it seems very fitting and very dark and creepy, like everything in Batman.
Yeah, especially with Charles and his face is burned off.
Yeah. Here, I'll read what I looked up. I got two different little things I screenshotted. So one says Duke Dorter is one of Batman's earliest enemies. He is a Parisian criminal whose modus operandi was to separate the live faces of women, leaving them alive with no face and keeping their faces for his own collection. Pretty dark.
It is pretty dark.
And then the next part says Duke Dorter was a deranged man in Paris, France, who fell in love with a woman named Carol Marie at a masquerade party. When Carol rebuked his advances, he had his thugs attack and bring her to his secret laboratory, where he used a ray gun to sever her face. As it turned out, Duke had a collection of living women's faces that he kept in a garden surgically attached to flowers.
Yeah, there's definitely something that like a modern writer could do with this.
Oh, yeah.
They revisited. I'm surprised Grant Morrison didn't bring this guy back.
I feel like he could come back as some kind of crazy high-tech surgeon. He uses a laser to do surgery.
Yeah.
And secretly uses the same laser to detach people's faces and put them on flowers.
You know what it actually reminds me of now? Like, it's different, but Duke Dorter reminds me of, have you ever seen Lupin the Third, The Secret of Momo?
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's excellent. It's the first Lupin the Third movie, and it's more like the comic, so it's got like that rougher look to it. But Momo, he's this little Napoleon like gremlin guy.
Yeah.
And for years, he does a lot of these cloning experiments. And when Lupin finally gets to his like base place or whatever it is, it's really trippy and weird. And he has clones of all these different like people and women and even Adolf Hitler.
But like deformed clones or?
No, they're not deformed. But it also reminds me of that episode where there was another guy who was actually marrying women and then putting them in wax to keep them like immortal.
Sounds great.
Yeah. All right. So it reminds me of two Lupin things.
Yeah.
I maybe I mixed them up in my head, but
they both sound like they could be Batman villains.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense. All right. You want to give us your thoughts and then
that
talk
actually
about the panel that you picked?
Sure. So Charles, he reminded me of the Question. I tried looking up to see if maybe he was the inspiration for Question or something. Yeah. I didn't see anything like to that. I know there's old Steve Ditko and
he definitely looks like the Question though. He has no face.
Yeah.
It's not just a human shaped face with no eyes or nose. It's just a flat like the Question.
And his name was Charles Victor Zsasz, which is a weird coincidence that they shared the exact name of the other Batman villain. That's for another episode, potentially decades of continuity from now.
Yeah, I forget when Victor Zsasz came in. I want to say he came in the 80s.
He seemed like a 70s or 80s villain with the 70s style serial killers being in vogue.
That's my favorite era of Batman, 70s and 80s.
Other than that, the French stuff really tripped me up. So there's that, and I really hope that our French audience forgives my American ignorance. As far as my panel of the issue, it's the one where Batman he goes and sees the faces on the flowers.
Yeah,
it's the most memorable thing in this issue.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it a lot too. I like it for a couple reasons because it is just one panel where it shows the flowers, like the panel you picked here, and it says the flowers have human faces, and then Batman, am I going mad?
Yeah, it's starting to flirt with the whole Batman and craziness and the idea of we're getting to the point with the mentally ill people, and is Batman one of them?
I feel like all his villains are mentally ill, even the ones that we read in the previous issues.
Yep.
But I really like this panel too, and I almost picked the panel right after this one where it shows him like in the background and he's collapsed on his knees and he's holding his face, and then you can just tell that he's, am I going mad?
Yeah.
And then you can see
he's like
in the foreground.
He's like resigning to his madness.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good choice. And then I picked a panel where it's like a really simple panel. It's just like a shot of the sewers. You can tell Batman's secondary in this panel. They probably drew the whole sewer scene and then just sketched a little like shadow Batman in there.
Yeah.
But I love it. Every time Batman's in the sewers, it has a very distinct feel to me. And I love when they draw the water and color it in green and it just looks really gross and toxic. Just feels so dark.
Yeah,
dirty
Batman and
Batman
sewers go
sewers.
well together.
Yeah, they really do.
And like, a few days before I read this issue, or the day before, I was playing Batman Return of the Joker on Game Boy, and it starts out in a sewer level.
So some notes that I made too. You brought this up by putting in your synopsis, but they reference the monk story, even though there's an issue in between them. Which
Yeah.
is interesting. Kind of like that issue is just like filler, like it didn't matter so much or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe this issue this issue was written before the previous issue, but in real life we had, 1939, we had I have to look up the months, Germany invading Poland and then France not too long after. So maybe they held off on this issue to get the previous one in, which had crazy dictator trying to take over the world. So maybe they just had the invasion on the brain and they want to get that in.
Yeah, I can see that. I got a couple more things
Yeah.
I just think it's funny sometimes to look through my notes, especially after having researched the book a little bit online, because I've answered some of my own questions here, but I like to write them in question form. So I wrote, why does he have a garden in the ceiling full of flowers with faces?
Mhm.
Lots of good questions. And why is he such a stereotype of a Frenchman? When the faceless man tells Batman that he must kill someone, does he talk without a mouth? Question mark. So I feel like this this issue presented a lot of interesting questions,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really necessarily have to address them. It's a highly
We'll
entertaining
never
issue.
see Jed. We'll never probably ever see the rest of Charles and his sister.
Yeah, someday,
No.
like 10 years from now, when you write a Batman comic for DC Comics, you can bring back Jed,
Yes.
or sorry, bring in Jed for the first
Bring
time,
in Jed and then I'll bring in Charles.
and you can bring in Duke,
Duke Tadera.
whatever the
The
hell his
Duke.
name is.
He's just going to be called the Duke,
That's
just like
right.
they call him the Mad Monk or the
Just
Monk,
rename him.
the Duke. That does it for issue 34. We're going to take a quick break and then continue on to our last issue of the episode, number 35.
Number 35.
And we are back. All right, so issue number 35. In the last issue, I thought I was bracing myself for the racism with the Apaches. It didn't happen, but we got something even worse here. So it actually happens in this one, issue number 35. So it's let me get into it. Detective Comics number 35, The Case of the Ruby Idol. It's the January 1940 issue. Art by Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff. Written by Bill Finger. All right, so the synopsis. Bruce and Gordon, they're at the office and they're chatting about Batman, and an officer walks in telling them about a very urgent matter. A man named Weldon, a museum owner and collector, tells Gordon that he's been approached by a man named Sheldon Lennox. And Sheldon, he wants to sell a large ruby statue of Keela, the Hindu god of destruction.
Total bullshit.
Yes, which I looked this up, and I didn't even need to look it up. It's just basic knowledge that it's not Keela, it's Kali.
They just flip flop the I and the
yeah, and it's a goddess.
Yeah.
Kali is a goddess
yeah, not a demon statue.
or a Hindu god. Yeah, Hindu goddess, not a Hindu god.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got the statue from him, but a few days after he bought the statue, he got a death threat commanding him to return the statue to the temple that it was stolen from. He says that a little bit after that note, he got another note saying that Sheldon is in danger. So Bruce and Gordon, they go out looking for Sheldon. They get in the car, they go driving. They find Sheldon. He's in a car with other Hindu men. So one of the Hindu guys, he shoots Gordon's tires, and then they stab Sheldon and throw his body in the water and they get away.
Yeah, that's pretty dark. That's like the darkest panel so far. They just stab this dude and throw him in the river.
Yeah, we'll find out later just how dark it actually was.
Yeah.
So Bruce leaves and he writes this story for the newspaper, which is weird because at this point they don't really mention Bruce has ever been a newspaper writer or
Yeah.
anything. I'm wondering if maybe just want to give him a Clark Kent's trait real quick.
Maybe he signed it Clark Kent and
Yeah.
submitted it.
After this story gets published, a Chinese man named Sin Fang is reading the newspaper and he seems very interested. A few weeks go by, and then Gordon tells Weldon that, hey, it's probably safe to go take your statue back. He was guarding the statue. Bruce hears about it and decides that Batman needs to give Weldon a wellness check. He sneaks into Weldon's museum and he finds that a couple of robbers are already there. So they have a tussle and they're interrupted by a gang of Hindus. One of the Hindu guys, I don't know that's the best way to address them.
Is it Hindi?
I know, but I don't want to say anything wrong. Anyways, one of the Hindu men, he knocks Batman on the back of the head and they take this statue. Batman gets up just in time for the police to arrive and then he escapes. He gets in his car and he tails the Hindu men to Chinatown. Bruce decides to visit a guy named Wong, who's the unofficial mayor of Chinatown. And he asks him about Sin Fang. But this isn't like an interrogation, it's just he's a friendly guy. So Wong tells Batman he's heard a rumor about that Sin Fang is actually a fence, and he's planning to cut up the idol into pieces and sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Batman, he gets to Sin Fang's shop, and Sin Fang tells Batman that he didn't know the idol had been stolen, and he's going to return it. So they go into another room, and Batman gets attacked by a couple men with swords. Batman beats them, and then Sin Fang apologizes, telling him that they thought Batman was an intruder. Honest mistake.
Love this scene.
Yeah, so Sin Fang, he leads Batman into another room, and he slams the door shut, and he fills it with mustard gas. Batman throws a vial, and he neutralizes the gas.
Anti-gas gas.
Yeah, like he didn't bring his choking gas, he brought his anti-choking gas. So Sin Fang, he tells him that they got bad plumbing. So they continue, and then he pulls this lever that drops Batman in a death pit. And on his way down, Batman, he catches his pipe, and he escapes. He finds Sin Fang in another room with an idol, with the idol. And then Sin Fang wipes off the literal yellow face to reveal he's actually Sheldon Lennox. He faked his death earlier. He reveals to Batman he staged his death a few weeks before, and then he tries to shoot Batman. Batman just punches Lennox out the window and he dies. The next day, Gordon tells Bruce he wishes Batman didn't make the police look so bad. The end.
That damn Batman killing all the criminals,
I know.
making us look bad. Man. I feel like because Sin Fang is a white dude in Asian makeup, he probably does have a really bad, terribly offensive Asian accent. I don't think he could do a convincing Chinese accent.
I don't want to get into that. I don't know.
Yeah, I would imagine that when they wrote this, they probably had that in their head too.
Possibly.
The villain of the Batman serials is a really bad Asian stereotype. It's a white dude
Yeah.
with the exact same look as Sin Fang. So
Yeah, that was a big issue, probably even still today.
oh yeah.
So my thoughts on it, like we're getting into it, it's super racist and pretty awkward to talk about in 2022. But outside of that, Bill Finger, he writes Batman a lot more quippy than Gardner Fox.
Yeah, he does.
Batman's a lot more talkative. He still does just whip out justice, but it's like a precursor of what's going to happen pretty soon with the tone of the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
So of the issues we reviewed, I'm going to say this is the worst one we've done so far.
Yeah, it's definitely the most offensive, which sucks because the art is getting better, but some of the writing is getting worse.
Yeah, like it's a reverse, which it's Bill Finger, and he's great and all, but
Yeah, at the time when this book came out, it probably was not considered offensive because
not at
there
all.
was all kinds of like racist stereotype characters as villains throughout media.
This was the norm. Yeah, anybody who wasn't white easily just
bad
a
guy.
villain. Yeah, bad guy.
And I'm sure that Bill Finger, being the avid moviegoer and book reader, was like thinking that he was doing this awesome thing by making Batman's villains international and all diverse. Although this guy's not really actually Chinese. He's a white guy.
Literally white face. I mean, yellow face.
Yeah. But yeah, the artwork in this issue is really good. I feel like everything, you can sense the motion, like when people are moving. They don't even have to do the little motion lines. You can actually like feel the motion because they just did a really good job of the angles that the characters are walking or moving in. Everything's really expressive. Like Batman's very expressive. I think we talked about this with the last issue, even where like how they'll go from drawing, or he'll go, I don't even know who drew which panels. Probably, I would have to guess that Sheldon Moldoff drew more than Bob Kane, but it goes from where like Batman looks dark and dour to him just like grinning.
Yeah, that's my panel is one where he's pretty much just grinning.
Yeah, I like that panel. I'm actually staring at that one right now. I love what he's saying too, because it feels very much like an Adam West Batman type thing to say.
Yeah. When the police are away, the rats will play. I think the Batman will take a hand in this game.
Yeah, it almost rhymes.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I like that panel a lot too.
There's a rhythm to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the panel I picked it's actually the splash page, which has nothing to do with this issue at all. It's just a really cool dynamic picture of Batman. coming in through an open door with a smoking gun. And then I just love the way he's drawn on that issue because he's like a little bit beefier looking than he is throughout the rest of the issue.
Yeah.
And he's got a super chiseled jaw, and his mask looks freaking awesome. Like his ears are like curved like devil horns.
Actually, you know what? It looks like it could be a different perspective on the issue 33 panel where he shoots the gun into the room with the death rays.
Yeah, actually, I could see that. Like maybe from a different angle, from the perspective of the people down the hallway who are about to blow up.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I actually want to redraw this picture and continue it because his arm's cut off. You can't see his cape and you can't see the legs.
Yeah.
I want to like almost like trace what we have and then finish the image off.
That'd be pretty cool.
And maybe I'll draw the death ray down the hallway.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on this issue?
Let me see what I have in my notes. I wrote, what's with the racism in early Batman comics? Asian, Middle Eastern, European, nobody is safe. And then I said, the Keela worshippers just straight up stabbed a guy and tossed his body in the river. Brutal. How the hell did Bruce Wayne get a story published in the newspaper?
Yeah, I think maybe just pulling his rich weight there.
Yeah. Also, I wrote that in this issue, Batman's car turns blue. So it's starting to look more like the Batmobile now, finally.
Yeah.
And then I wrote, Batman has anti-gas. Awesome.
Did he choke anybody in this issue?
No, actually, I don't think he did. What if he never chokes anybody ever again?
Maybe he started choking and he's, oh, this is what I do to people.
When Batman throws a giant priceless ruby at a guy's face and knocks him out a window with it.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this issue. When we return for so next episode.
Oh yeah, the next episode's going to be really good.
Yes, that should be our last episode with 3 issues of Detective Comics.
Yep.
Our final 3 before the year ends and we can finally start doing 1-issue Detective and the first premiere issue of Batman.
I'm excited about that because it's the Joker's first appearance too. And
Joker.
Such a good issue.
And we're going to get Robin.
I love the way the Joker's drawn in that first issue so much.
Yeah, he just looks very menacing, devilish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets so pissed off about everything.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Then
in the next episode, we've got the origin of Robin. We've got Batman's gloves finally getting the little scalp spikes on them, which is great. So that's like the last piece he's still missing. And then the art gets even more detailed too.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the pinnacle of the long-eared detective Golden Age Batman art before he starts to look softer and more like family friendly and like the Dick Sprang stuff.
Yeah, hopefully Bob Kane, Dick Sprang, and all of them got paid more once they started doing the solo Batman.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, they must have, because then they were getting paid for doing Detective Comics and paid for doing Batman.
All right, well, that does it for this episode. We will see you next time.
Sayonara.
Signing out.
Thank you.